we are live. Welcome to Sunday Morning Live. I'm Isaac. And
I'm Sam.
I'm Sam. There he goes. You'll see Sam is sporting his awesome Christmas sweater. Happy holidays to you all. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Well, Kwanzaa,
or non-denominational holidays.
We don't recognize Kwanzaa.
Oh.
Kwanzaa's a pretty crazy holiday if you ever... you
Uh,
know about it?
All right. No, I don't. But definitely Merry Christmas. I'm sporting my favorite dad waffle sweater. Looks like a waffle turned into a sweater.
Waffle.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I'm sporting the check mic. The check mic, why aren't you changing to me?
I guess it just loves my sweater. Who wouldn't? Am I right?
We've had a change of plans. Here, this is why are you not switching? Oh, switch.
It's a Christmas miracle. I guess it's the opposite of a Christmas miracle. It's a Christmas tragedy.
I'm checking the sensitivity. Checking
that sensitivity.
Maybe it's...
Maybe you need to be sensitive. Like,
I am. I'm very sensitive to things that aren't going correctly as far as technology.
love that.
Because if it goes right once, then like it should always go right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's actually working.
What do you know? Now that's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, it is. I got this other computer here that I'd like to see if it's actually streaming live to the
Test
world.
drive. That way we're not just talking to ourselves like we have been the past couple times. Which has been fun. But trying to put these good feelings out in the universe. So for those of you joining us for the first time, I'm Isaac Ames. This is my main man, Sam Johnson. We are both self-proclaimed Christians. Myself, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, known to the layman as Mormon. Sam is, how you say, non-denominational.
A heathen.
A heathen.
No, I'm kidding. I'm
He's
not really a heathen.
He's a sacrilegious heathen. No,
No.
that's not true.
But I do know. Is that both the Mormon Bible and?
That's right. This is the Bible, and this is the Book of Mormon. Which, fun fact, is where the name Mormon came from. It was a nickname given to the church by non-members of the church, originally as a derogatory term, like Mormon, and then we just took it. We're like, you know what? That sounds cool. We'll just use that.
I wonder if Christians have any of that. I know that the Jewish community has one. I'm not gonna say it, but
yeah, I probably shouldn't. But I don't know. Well, that's the thing is, it's not derogatory anymore. Now we're trying to. The church is making a push to try and. We used to refer to ourselves a lot as Mormon. Yeah, I'm a Mormon, or like, yeah, the Mormon Church. But the church is called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? It is, by every definition by means, it is a Christian faith. And so that one of the reasons why there's a lot of ignorance regarding what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints actually believes is because we just keep calling it Mormon. That being said, though, I like to kind of plug it in because, well, I'm like, yeah, from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. People are like, where? I'm like, Mormon. Like, oh, Mormon, so. Anyway,
and that's the history of the derogatory term of Mormon. So
don't
down, call people. Maybe you could. But
you could like, hey, are you Mormon? And the proper time be like, you mean a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's fine. Not offensive, but it's kind of a push.
Or if you see me on the street, you can be like, hey, you're that guy that was drinking Mountain Dew at 7:00 on a Sunday morning.
That's offensive. I don't think people should talk about that.
Yeah, that
in front of you.
It's not jumping back and forth. I think that I need to talk loud. Like here, we're cranking we're cranking it. We're cranking it. That's what it is. Is that it wasn't cranked.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right, there you have it.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
So we're gonna talk about the prodigal son.
That's right. We like to kick these things off going over a parable in the New Testament, relatable to all. And I get to choose a parable this time.
Yes.
Sam picked the last one, and
yes.
It was really good. My turn. And I chose the prodigal son.
You even have it, like, mapped to...
I do, because I like to actually back up when talking about Scripture. I'm not necessarily, and this is something to close to, not really an authority in the sense that I'm not like, a religious leader.
Jesus?
I'm not Jesus, but Sam and I both love the Bible, and we love Christ, and we love talking about things and learning about things, and so that's all we're doing. So I'm going to talk about what I think is awesome.
Well, I don't always like to do that. There's sometimes where I just don't want to do any of that.
Also true. So you don't do anything. Same.
Check.
Yeah.
So we want to have it about right here, about 10 inches away.
10 inches. Let's see. That's fine. It's perfect.
Okay.
Now this is 10 inches.
Is it?
I don't know. I was making
My
that
foot is 1 foot.
That's a small foot.
Thanks. That hurts. Let's talk about the prodigal son.
No shame. Yeah.
No.
And on that note, prodigal son. No, yeah. So, prodigal son comes from Luke chapter 15. I'm going to give a brief synopsis, and you can tell me what you think about it. I'll tell you what I think about it. So the prodigal son is all about, starts off in verse 11. He says there's a certain man had 2 sons, right? And essentially what happens is the younger son says, and I'm, for those listening, I usually read from the King James Version. You read from the, what version is it?
I like the Amplified.
Amplified version? Is that a version of the Bible?
Yeah, it gives you more of like a understanding of the Greek word that
Awesome.
is used for it.
Love it. So there might be some difference in language, but the general idea should still be the same.
Yes.
So, father has 2 sons. He tells the younger son says, "You know what, Dad? I'm ready to get out of here. Give me the portion of goods. Give me like my inheritance. Give me my share. And I'm gonna split." And the father does it. He's like, "Okay, here's your share. Off you go." And so the son goes off into the world. He leaves his father's estate, kind of, and it says that he wasted his substance with riotous living, which I imagine would mean, we learn later that he's with harlots and probably drinking a lot and just spending all his money.
Harlots are prostitutes, right?
Correct. Are prostitutes.
Or whores. I think it translates more directly to whores.
Probably. Either way.
Because in the book of Jeremiah, it refers to harlots in King James, and then in the English Standard Version, then it says whores.
Sure. Either way, something not to be spending your money on.
Yeah.
Right? And so it said that he went and he wasted it, all of it, right? So when he spent it all, there arose a mighty famine in the land. And basically, he had no money. He had nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just like that, he just spent everything. And so what he ended up doing was he went looking for work, and he found someone like, "Hey, can I work for you?" And he said, "Sure, you can feed my pigs, feed my swine, right? There's your job." And he found that he said he would fain have filled his belly with the husks that the swine did eat. So basically, he would eat the food of the pigs. That's how hungry and desperate he was. He would feed the pigs, and then he was so starved he would just eat the swill that the pigs were eating, right? So
Wait, as in the same thing that the pigs ate?
Yeah. So he was in charge of feeding the pigs, and then he would be so hungry he would just eat that himself. So he was rock bottom, right? He was like, "What have I become?" And he was just sitting there. I picture in my head, he's sitting on the ground, eating this food from the pigs, surrounded by pigs in the dirt, and he's just like, "What the heck is going on?" And then he says he came to himself, and he's realized that my father's servants get treated better than this. The servants are better conditioned than I am. I'll just go back to my father. Obviously, I've gone way too far, and I can't come back and, be his son and just go back to how I was. But maybe he'll at least let me be a servant, right?
Yeah.
And so he goes back to his house. And this is a part that really touches me and why makes this one of my most favorite parables. Because he says, "I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven. I have sinned before thee. I am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants." Right? So, pausing here, I feel like I have definitely felt this way before. I feel like a lot of people felt this way before, where we just kind of feel like we're not worthy, like we're not good enough, right? I don't know. Have you ever felt that way before? Probably not, because you're pretty good. I don't know.
No, I have. There's a lot of times whenever what comes to mind whenever I think about it is that oftentimes I'll call my dad. I've got a pretty good relationship with my dad.
It's good.
So when things are a little bit, and I should do that more. Sometimes I think I try to be like, what is he gonna know?
Mm-hmm.
But other times I'll just be like, why not? Let's give him a call.
Yeah.
Let's see how he's doing. Let's talk. Let's chit chat.
Right.
So, granted, this story is more directed towards, it's like, more towards your heavenly Father.
Sure, but you did some comparisons to your earthly father too.
Yeah.
I think that's by divine design. I think we're supposed to use our relationships with our real fathers, our earthly fathers, to kind of compare how it would be with our heavenly Father.
Divine design. I like that.
Right. But yeah, because like you're saying, sometimes, whether it's with my father, with my own dad, or something, there are times where I feel just like I'm not good enough, right? Especially when I'm trying really hard, but I'm just like.
Yeah, and then when you don't talk to your dad, then it's like you feel that you are good enough, you are better.
Right. What do you mean by that?
I mean, like the reason you wouldn't call your dad would be like, he's not worth my time.
Right. Yeah. It's like I don't need the help, right?
Yeah. I'm doing really well.
And then you find that middle ground where there are people who feel like they do need the help, but they don't ask for it because they're embarrassed or they're ashamed, And so
we would suggest that you call this hotline 1-800.
In case you see description. No, but
just watch any Grammy or Emmy award show. They usually yell it out.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. The suicide hotline.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway,
that took a turn for a. Sorry.
It's a good plug. Plug for the Grammys. No. The
prodigal son.
Prodigal son. We get to have this, but that's why, at this point, he says, "I'm not worthy to be thy son." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me be one of your servants, at the very least. And I feel like a lot of people feel that same way sometimes with God. Like maybe they believe he's real, or maybe they're not sure, but they feel like they've done some things in their lives that make them unworthy of God's love. It's like I've made too many mistakes. I've gone too far. Right? Like there's no coming back for me. And I think that is a very common tool that, Satan uses, who I also believe is real, right? He uses that to try and dissuade people from trying to grow close to God again. You're right, you're not good enough. There's no point. There's no point in trying to get better because you've already gone so far down, right, that there's no coming back from it. I think it's a very common tool. And that's why people like, I can't do these things, right? I can't change my life.
It's kind of like being 15 minutes into a podcast and then realizing that Isaac might not be in focus.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that?
Similar to that. That's right. That looks pretty good. No,
Sam's posture isn't as great as it should be, though.
Right.
I just saw that on the camera. We got monitors rolling here, left and right.
Rolling. So, moving on then. That's how the son feels. Like, not good enough. But then it goes on to say, and he arose and came to his father, so he went back. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. I love the imagery of this too, because what's happening is his son is probably coming up the trail up to the father's estate, right? And some people would, what he's probably afraid of was his father would see him and be like, "Oh, you're back. What do you know?" Kind of folding his arms, being like, "Okay, well, you're gonna have to earn it, right? Like you think you want to come back? Well, you're gonna have to work harder than that, right?" But what he says is his father saw him and he ran to him. As soon as he saw him, he just bolts to his son, and he falls on him, and he hugs him, and he kisses his neck. And then the verses go on to say that he's calling his servants, says, "Bring out a robe, put shoes on his feet, put a ring on his finger, kill the fatted calf," which in those times the fatted calf is like, you say that for just the most special occasions, right? And he's like, and so basically does the opposite of what his son thought was going to happen. The son's like, "Father, I want to be your servant."
The older son.
The younger son first. First he says, actually maybe he doesn't say anything. But the point is the son comes back. Oh, yeah. This is, man, I love this. In verse 21 it says, and the son, so the father fell on him and he kissed his neck and he holds him. He's like, "You're back." And the son says what he planned. He says, "Father, I've sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son." His father's like, "Dad, I'm not worthy." But his response to that is, bring out the clothes, give him the shoes, give him the ring, kill the fatted calf, let's have a party. Let's celebrate that you're back, right? Basically, his father says, you are worthy. You are good enough to be my son. And so then the other part, which I was saying about before, then the older son comes in. This is like, that's part one of the story. Part two, older son comes in.
There's two lessons to be had here.
There is.
Not just one, but two lessons.
But two. And the older son's like, what the heck, Dad? Like, I've never messed up, right? I've never wasted stuff like my little brother did. I've never gone and spent money on whores, right? I've worked hard. I've done everything. And you haven't even given me like a little goat to kill for my friends, right? But as soon as he comes back from wasting all his money, you give him the fatted calf, and he is understandably upset. Like, I'd be upset, I guess, if like my...
Well, you have like 3 brothers, so
I
like
do.
with some, like one of your brothers came back from, where's he? He's going on missions trip to where?
My younger brother now is in South Korea.
So if he came back from South Korea and like he got out of basically South Korea? Okay. So he got really into like K-pop and like he became some K-pop superstar.
Sure.
and just left the faith behind and then ended up realizing that just made him even more lonely.
Or even more literally, like if he took, if my dad had a bunch of money and he took, like, Dad, give me like half of your money, and just wastes it and comes back, and my dad just like brings him in and loves him as if it never happened.
Oh, you'd be ticked.
I'd first be like, what the heck? Like, he just wasted all of that.
Why haven't you disciplined him?
Exactly. And also, the other part of this too is the older son felt like, you haven't even done anything for me, right? Yeah. It'd be different if you were at least give me the fatted calf every now and again, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is, I didn't get anything, and I've been so good. And this is what the father says. He says, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine." So that's the first step. He says, look, I know that I give the fatted calf for your brother. But you have to remember that you get everything. You get all that I have, right? That's kind of your reward for being such a good son. But we can't forget that it's meet that we should make merry and be glad. For this thy brother was dead and is alive again, was lost and was found. He says we can't ignore the fact that it's less important is what he's done, right? Forget about what he did. Let's focus on the fact that he's here, that he's decided to come home, that he wants to change, and he lets him. So bottom line, my big takeaway from that parable is it's never too late, I guess, to come back, right?
Yeah.
You've never done something so wrong in your life, even if it's been a very long period of just doing bad things, right? It's never too late just to decide, I want to change. I want to turn to God. I want to change my heart. And it's not like God is kind of like making you qualify for that, like, oh, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
As soon as you want to do that, immediately he runs to you and he wants to help you. Now, that doesn't mean your life's going to like be great all of a sudden, right? You probably have to go through a process and actually change. The point is, God, from the second you want to change, he is ready to help you do that. On the other hand, for all the people who have, I guess, been good their whole lives, right? I've gone to church since day one, and they never sin, or like they try their best not to, and they're just like these good Christian folk. And if we think that God is going to love us more just because we've done that than people who have not lived a life as good as ours, we're very wrong. That's not how God works. He loves everyone. Even if it's up to the last second a person decides to change their life, God's going to love that person just as much, right? Granted, that person, to me, like the consequences, that person has had a lot of like, their consequence, their punishment is the fact that their life probably sucked because of all the mistakes they made. But we don't worry about that now. We worry about the good stuff they're doing now. So, I don't know.
So here's my take on this is that's easy for us to grasp. For some reason, I think that story is actually something that is like second nature to us. When I say second nature, I mean like we feel it. So like this sense of forgiveness that's in all of us. Mm-hmm. The problem is that we know it, and so because we know it, we're more apt to step outside of the boundaries and take that money of our fathers and just go blow it. Mm-hmm. Because we know especially today. And usually it's the daddy's little girl that I'm thinking of that like she'll go out and like go and buy new heels and new whatever and
just spend all their
I got a credit card,
yeah,
and just blow all that money. And the reason that I think that they do that is because, well, they're trying to find God through material, which is idolization.
Sure.
That's a whole nother topic for another day. But I think also what they're trying to do is almost like begging their father to like discipline them. Like, could you please tell me not to spend all of this money?
Yeah.
Or it's also one of those things where it's like, you know, if I tick him off way too far, then I'm going to always be his son or his daughter. And so like having that as like, it almost becomes a curse as much as a blessing.
Sure. I think what you mean is the idea that like, because we know that we're always going to be forgiven, that we can kind of
do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah. I think that's a great distinction to make, because the difference is between that, like with the prodigal son, I think that like if he kept doing it over and over again and like, you know what, I'm going to go blow some more cash because I know my dad's going to forgive me. I bet you when he came home, it'd be a different story, right? I would hope so anyway. Because you're right. I think the person who's sincere in wanting to change and things like that, that's the person who gets forgiven. But like you're saying, the person who makes mistakes because they're just like, oh, I can go ahead and do this because I know I'm just going to be forgiven anyway.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think it works that way. I think we're going to still be held accountable for those things.
Well, you're manipulating the law in that case.
Totally, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, when I say the law, I mean like, you know, I don't believe that the law of the Bible is just the law of the Bible. Like I believe it's like the law of morals, ethics.
Yeah.
Like you can't crack the fabric of reality. And the Bible outlines the fabric of reality.
I like that. Can't crack the fabric of reality. It's really the Bible kind of sets what that standard is. An objective truth, perhaps.
Oh, did you just segue that?
Segue if you want, but I like the stream of thought you're going. I want to cut you off.
Okay.
If you want.
No, you're fine. I wanted to talk about 1 Samuel 8.
Let's do it.
1 Samuel 8.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of politics and stuff, so like I'm really fascinated by the king or the president, and I'm also fascinated by how Christians treat the president.
Yeah.
Regardless of who it is. Obama, Bush, dare I say Trump?
No.
Reagan, whoever it is that the Bible is pretty freaking clear as far as like honor thy king, it says honor thy brotherhood, and love thy brotherhood and honor the king. And then it says one more thing. Somebody's gonna have to help me out if they're watching this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we're not scriptorians, by the way.
Scriptorians.
We try to be as best we can. A lot of times, somewhere in the Bible it says something about that.
Or scriptorosauruses.
Right. Yeah, scriptosauruses.
Scriptosaurus.
That's what we are. We're trying to become.
By the way, are you following this too? Is it like?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's working.
It's hot. Be right here. Right here. Wherever that works.
Yeah.
But anyway, so 1 Samuel 8 is like the outline of like Israel's first king. Now everybody else in the world at this time had kings, and so the people, and I know this really well because I read for 1 Samuel. That's my name.
Oh, are you 1 Samuel?
Yeah. So I'm the first Samuel of the family.
Oh, there you go.
But there's 2 chapters, or not 2 chapters, 2 verses. Anyway, so in 1 Samuel 8, it outlines how the people are like, hey, Samuel, who is the judge at the time, and in Israel they always had a judge. They never had a king. He pretty much told them, yo, God's saying this, we need to do this, and God's saying this, and we need to do this. God's also saying we don't probably want to do this.
Right.
So
don't want a king.
Let's not do this. And it's about the king. So like, and it wasn't God that was saying it. It was like, God never really said like, no, we don't need a king. Samuel was like, no, we don't want a king.
Right. And technically you could say, because he was the prophet, right?
Yeah.
So technically you could say God was saying it. But either way, the Lord's chosen servant saying, no king. Or he's saying, highly recommend we do not have a king.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And he's also even like, they're like, but everybody, the people are like, but everybody else is a king. So like, we want a king. And so.
Why did they say not to have a king? I actually don't know the story very well.
It's so much more into the story that like it's so, but the underlining, like I can kind of give the crux of it is that well he makes two very valid points, is that they'll take your firstborns, or like they'll take their sons and then put them in war. Yeah. Right. And then also take 50% or 40%, 20% or whatever of your
taxes.
crop. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So like he puts those out there, but the number 3 is that, which is just so much, I think, greater than like those. Like I think Samuel was not just wise, but he was also intelligent, and so he was like laying down like a fair argument. But like the third thing, like I think it was, and I wish I had it in front of me, but was that you don't need a king. Like you don't need a king. Yeah. Because like there's already a king of the earth. You don't need a king of Jerusalem or Israel. And basically what happened is that like they wanted a physical version of God. In that having a king would be him, which is really shown through, or really becomes more evident whenever Saul and David enter the picture, because Saul and David are very handsome, tall, stunning, just stricken?
No. Very good leaders.
Yeah.
Good ideal politician, right? Like
exactly. Somebody that and so they're like, this is our representative of. It's like no. You had judges,
right?
But you wanted a king.
So he was saying something like judges were sufficient because you just need someone who's helping keep the law, basically. Yeah. But you don't need this person who can make these unilateral decisions that's in charge of everyone, that has all the power to do everything. That's not so good. Judges is enough. Because we already have that in the form of God. God's king.
Yes.
You have the idea?
Yeah.
Or Jesus is king. Shout out to Kanye.
So once you add a president, then you have to have the 3 branches of government reformed, and then that's reformed on this earth. Because without the president, then it would be basically it would be the people, it would be the judge, and it would be God. Yeah. And like that would be the 3 keeping each other in check, right? Yeah. That makes sense?
It does. So it makes me think of a
We're
question,
talking about theocracies at this point. Like what a theocracy kind of structure would look like, which I've never discussed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could get into the weeds a lot about which form of government would be best, but you made me think about something. So you said that in the Bible it says that pretty clearly, just like support your king or support your leader, right?
Love thy brotherhood, honor thy king.
Yeah, and that's actually something that's also pretty consistently taught also in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. The rule is honor the laws of the land and support your leaders. Like that's just kind of a rule of thumb. That's what you do, right? Yeah. So I'm curious to know what you think. Do you think that means that you should support your leader even if you don't like them or agree with them just because they are your leader? Or do you think there's some wiggle room there of, I guess, level of support? Because you said you're shocked at like how Christians treat Trump. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
Well, no, so... This is why it needs to jump to the wide angle whenever it's silent. There's a you can mode to change that.
Awesome.
But why? I mean, there's a degree. Like clearly, if the president starts like to attack religion, the practicing of religion, like which that's I think what's kind of what people think is happening, and maybe it is happening, but I don't see it. Is that he's not attacking?
Yeah, I don't think it's happened yet.
I don't think he's attacking. I mean, the institution of the religious institutes were kind of they're more under fire as far as Democrat leaders than Republican leaders, because Republicans usually lean more towards conserving, right, and then Democrats are more of progressing,
right. I agree.
Liberalizing.
Yeah, I will say there's a lot of like people usually associate traditional religious people with being these closed-minded, homophobic, or just like against any type of change. You know, these traditionalists, right?
Yeah.
And they associate churchgoers with those types of people. I agree. That's whether people are meant to or not. I think that's kind of like the image that's been put forth.
Which I can say this now. If you think I'm a homophobe, go check out my my interview with Black Mike on My Testimonies. Have you seen that, by the way?
No.
It's a swell
Great
one.
name, Black Mike.
Well, yeah.
Is he black?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, okay. That makes sense.
It narrows it down on my phone whenever I'm like, I wonder what Mike's doing. And then you search M-I-K, and then it's like, holy crap, because I've got like 20-something Michaels.
Yeah.
But only one of them is black.
Only one Black Mike.
So
Shout out to Mike.
And Nick. Black Nick.
Okay. Do they know that that's how you...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then that's allowed. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, bringing back supporting leaders. I guess, yeah, my original question. Do you think... You were saying that there's kind of a level of degree because you shouldn't support them so much if they're like attacking religion.
Yes. Yeah. Like, are you aware of like China's situation right here, right now?
Yeah, with Hong Kong and all that.
Or yeah, we can specifically zone in on Hong Kong because I know a little bit more about that. Is that Hong Kong was property of Great Britain, I think, and then pretty much was like, we're gonna let you free. Like it was colonized, maybe.
Yeah.
And so then they said, we're gonna let you free, and then China was like. And then, like, right before they...
Right.
Britain was like, hey, in China, you can't have Hong Kong. Like, back off.
Yeah.
And they were like... And then China has been slowly creeping up to, like, take Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Because Hong Kong is moneymaker.
Right, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Super powerful.
It's
right,
like...
very prosperous, etc.
Yeah. It's like a little mini America over there.
Right.
But anyway, so now they are kind of intruding on the Hong Kong with communism because China is communist.
Right.
Is that they controlled for the longest time whether or not or how many children you had.
Right.
I feel like this is something that is just very should be known, but people don't really know about it because I don't know. I mean, I do know. It's
right, but the bottom line is that they were like China's
pull me back into what were the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Reel me back in.
Hong Kong. So if I understand it, because I don't know a whole lot about it, but I think I know a little. It's based on what you're telling me. Hong Kong is independent, I guess, from China in the sense that I know that all the riots have been because you have like. There are Hong Kong laws, but then like China still has a say in how things are done.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's kind of like federal versus state.
Right. Yeah, and there's like we don't want that like double layered law. Like we want Hong Kong, right?
Which I'm sure there is some political juice in there.
Yeah.
Whereas like China has given Hong Kong money
Sure.
and like but like
trying to justify their being able to kind of get involved, and Hong Kong's like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that at that time, like in China is like I don't believe that you can practice Christianity.
I'm not sure.
I don't believe that.
I think if you can, it has. Yeah, there are very, very strict rules as to what you can actually do. Like I don't know if you can openly proselyte. I don't know how it works, but I think you're right. I think there are some restrictions on that.
So you ask like, where do you draw the line as far as like going up against the state?
Yeah.
As a Christian.
Yeah.
No, I think that you can still go up against the state. I think that it needs to be on a local level, though. You don't, you know, you don't attack the freaking. This is not. It's way more complex.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just cut the head off the snake.
Right.
Like our government, like as much as you think that you hate our government, it's the most successful government in the past thousands of years.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the past 200 years, it's been rough patches and rough roads. You know, yeah, get it, slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Women couldn't vote. Like, I get it, but
sure.
Like,
but we've made
2,000 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say necessarily that America has always been the first person to kind of make these progressive changes, but definitely has been a leader, right?
Yeah.
Because like women voting and slavery, obviously a bad stain on history, but everyone had that back then, right? And it took a long time for people to catch up after we were like, okay, fine, no more slavery. Women get the right to vote. Even to this day, a lot of countries haven't caught up. So,
yeah,
I think we're still making strides. Right?
Ooh, I got into a little. I guess we can kind of segue into this right here of, it's the Christmas holidays.
It is.
And so a lot of conversation pops up over the dinner table. Over Thanksgiving, I had a conversation with my cousin-in-law about objective truth and of he's more got a philosophical outlook and I have more biblical grounds, but it comes to conversation. I think that, and then I can also wrap a little bit of that political jargon in here, is that it's so nice that we have that free speech where we're able to share what we think.
Totally. Without
that free speech, you wouldn't know whether or not you're wrong or right. And people can always, we can sharpen each other. Even if somebody hasn't ever read the Bible. Yeah. There's still wisdom in that. Like there's still a person in there. So I guess this is like a discussion about discussions. That I think that it's very important to find some kind of common ground. And if you're at a family gathering, the easiest one is like blood. And I think the next easiest thing is just values that go unnoticed, traditions that go unnoticed, of just like we're meeting here in one place. Like that is something to be celebrated. That's a miracle in and of itself. Right. To get all of these people in one room together. It's like, because we're all living our own separate lives, and like, we see each other twice a year, 3 times a year, maybe Easter, Christmas, and Thanksgiving. And for us to all be in that room together, like, the way I see it is like, what an opportunity to just piss somebody off. Right. Just to royally tick somebody off and
well, I mean,
poke and prod at them like
it's interesting because somebody. Like the reason why there's a lot of SNL skits on like awkward conversations around the dinner tables, because it's true, right? And the holidays you get a bunch of different ideas, and I really there's a lot of beauty, I think, in the fact that often happens at the dinner table, because people are comfortable sharing their opinions with the people they care about. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's part of the miracle too, because like if you're meeting a bunch of people the first time, you're not going to assert your controversial religious or political views, right? As an introduction, right? It's just bad manners. You don't do that. Unless you're me. Unless you're Sam Johnson, you don't do that, right? But around the dinner table, like these are your family, right? And you can engage in a dialogue that might be controversial, but you feel comfortable being able to do that because it's family, right?
And if you can't, then like there's still something, that second nature that I was kind of referring to, of like you should be able to. Yeah. And I do agree also the idea that,
there's, I think, one of the biggest issues in, I guess you see the world, but especially in America, is the inability to have civil conversation, civil discourse, right? Being able to have contradicting views and just being able to discuss it. Right now, the rule of thumb is if you're not angry, if you don't make the other person you're talking to feel like an idiot, then you haven't won the argument, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big problem too, is people are thinking that arguments are about winning and losing. The only time it's about winning and losing is for lawyers, right? It's the only time where you win or lose. Otherwise, the whole purpose of having conversation with someone with a different religious view or political view or philosophical view or anything, the whole purpose is to,
You were rolling and chucking and going. I was waiting for it. What is the purpose of it?
The purpose is to grow. The whole idea, the reason why you have these conversations is so that you can let yourself become a wiser person.
Sure.
Become more intelligent.
Yeah,
right?
to whittle down what we can say is truth.
Exactly. You have to be willing to, there are some things that you can have as non-negotiable truths, right? That, okay, I think that's okay to have.
It. Yeah, he said it. There's some people who actually disagree with you on that a lot.
But, for example, for me, I believe that there is a God, and frankly, I don't think there's anything anyone could ever say that would change my mind about that. That doesn't mean I have to be a jerk if someone disagrees, right?
Yeah.
But for me, that's non-negotiable, right? But there are maybe certain aspects about kind of the way I live my life and certain viewpoints that no matter, even with that, hearing someone else's view can still be an uplifting experience for me, right? I guess the whole point of this, there doesn't need to be arguments, especially in politics. This happens, just a shouting match, right? I think you're right. What we need to practice is finding a common ground, so that these conversations are constructive instead of destructive, right?
Yeah.
You talk about things you disagree about or you have different views on, to the point not even necessarily to change the other person's mind. It's just to say, what can I get out of this conversation? What can I gain from it? And what can I give to you? And that generally creates just a better functioning society, is when people are willing to have those types of conversations. Everyone does not have to agree on the same thing. You just have to know how to talk about things that you disagree on. Well, and that is healing, I think, for societies.
That's what drove us into that really deep conversation, me and my cousin-in-law, mm-hmm. is that we started defining words. And then we started to realize that we have a completely different vocabulary set. Completely different. And that's where it goes. And it was that was probably the first that was the second deep conversation that I had in my family deal.
Yeah.
Right? At my family gatherings is that one right there. And he showed me his cards after that. I think just defining things
mm-hmm.
It goes back to Genesis 1, the world was created by spoken word, by his word.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk about the word, God's word, then I'm on my preaching stance right here.
Yeah, go for it.
Is that you have to you have to define what word is.
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying by the word? God's word or just your spoken word? Subjective or objective?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important to find out, because our definitions of religious were different. Our definitions of freedom were different.
Yeah.
Our definitions of slavery, not really necessarily definitions, but his idea of Israel's slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Is incorrect. If you're watching this, it's incorrect, okay? Damn it.
Not changing my mind.
Not changing. Well, no, really. If you go into it was more of debtor, but that's a whole other episode. Sorry. But what I'm saying though is that read the story of the Tower of Babel and how God scattered everybody, and whenever he says that they were scattered after they tried to build a tower up to heaven and they didn't speak the same languages afterwards, and then also whenever Paul was in a room with all of the it kind of comes back together on that if you read the story of Tower of Babel, and then after Paul becomes saved and all of those people are able to speak the same language.
Mm-hmm.
But my point, again, I'm really trying to drive this home, is that try going to a family gathering and instead of just gabbing away, like actually ask somebody, like, what do you mean by fill in the blank?
Yeah. Instead of just being triggered by something they say, try and find, because a lot of times like conflict can come from different interpretations of the same word.
Like here's a good one. Like, I'm gonna try to. I was trying to be unbiased, but I like Trump. I'm not saying I like Trump, but what I'm saying is that I like Trump. Okay, what do you mean by like? Let's just see where that conversation goes. Like I don't. I hate him. Yeah, we got two people, right? I hate him.
Yeah.
I hate Trump. Okay. Well, if you like Trump and you're listening to that and your cousin says I hate Trump, okay, I think that's cause for you to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And to ask, instead of like, let's start with just I hate, okay, or I like, whatever that follows that. Okay. But if you're saying, or I love, like, what do you mean by love? And what do you mean by hate? Let's have a conversation about that. But instantly it's like, oh, Trump. I like Trump, though.
Right.
It's like going back to primal times. And it's just like, would you relax? Like,
right. And at the end, everyone just ends up feeling angry, and you haven't changed at all. And you haven't gotten anything out of it. Yeah.
No growth,
exactly
closer to the truth.
So I think you're absolutely right. I think whenever you are face to face with the conversations, religious, political, or otherwise, right, whenever someone says something that you disagree with, it's okay to engage in that. But step one is don't lose yourself, right? Don't go crazy. Don't get triggered. Be like, hey, no, like, you can't say that, right? You have to be able to do what you said, which is ask, well, what do you mean by that? Could you help me understand that a little better? What do you mean when you say hate or like, or is it, what exactly you're trying
to say? Because I think a lot of times that you'll find that those people who say those things, they're just repeating what other people say.
It's true. And because people want to have an opinion. People want to feel involved. And it's hard to figure out all the facts because it really is like politics.
And if you say I love Trump, then you get to stand next to all these other people that have said that.
That's right.
And it's just as much identity politics as the other people who say we're your life matters.
Right.
Let's just say that.
Sure.
Fill in the blank. Okay? Like, that is identity. I think that's a very.
It's dangerous because
you shouldn't identify with a whole entire group. Even Christians shouldn't do that.
Right. I don't want to say that it's lazy, because that seems kind of a harsh term, but I think it can get to the point of being. At first, if you're not sure where you stand, I think it's okay to start there. Be like, okay, fine, I'm a Christian, or I like Trump, whatever, right? Or I hate Trump, whatever it is.
It's a loss of identity is what we're going through.
And so you start that way, but then you need to take the time to really reconcile your actual beliefs, what you actually think. And that takes work. It takes research, right? With religion, it takes time, it takes study, it takes investigation. With politics, the exact same thing, right? The things that are probably the most controversial, influential in our lives, it takes work. And I think people aren't willing to do that. People don't want to. It's uncomfortable to try and figure out, like, what do I actually think? What do I actually believe, right?
Yeah.
But you have to, because step one, sure, plant your flag, fine. But then you got to start working past that. If you're just like piggybacking on like, oh, what are the Democrats saying? Okay, I believe that too, because I'm a Democrat, so you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
the whole entire
what are the Republicans doing?
Like, if you walk around and you have a, in parentheses next to your name, a D or an R, like
it's lazy.
Like, you identify at, like...
to me, that's lazy.
Exactly. I mean, like, it's encapsulating all of these, like, what you believe a Democrat is.
Right.
Into, like, one word.
Exactly.
Whereas, like, Christians, we say, or we should say, is that, like, our identity, what is the word.
Yeah.
It's not just we're Christians. It's not like we're members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints. It's not like we are, like, it is the word. And by the word, it is the truth.
Sure.
Okay? And so when you get into a conversation, I wish I like these conversations.
No, they're good.
I'm getting worked up a little bit.
Well, no. Well, if I could say one thing too to that point, it's like with Christianity, religion in general, I think it's the exact same idea. Is that you can't, if you just say like, "Oh, I'm a Christian," right? You can't stop there. Even though there is a lot of power in the fact that you are so like it is good to know that Christianity is associated with certain things. Generally, if you say I'm a Christian, someone's probably going to assume you believe in Jesus Christ.
No, basically what you're going to assume is that like you're like any other 80% of America who was born and raised and went to a church
right,
on
exactly.
Sundays.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah, you're right.
And went and if you're Catholic, you probably drank a little bit more. And if you're Christian, then maybe your dad's a pastor.
Sure. Like and so you just saying like I'm a Christian, right? That's a great place to start, but it cannot stop there. You as a Christian have to dig deeper to find out what actually is it that you believe. You can't just listen to what your pastor says or your church leader.
Yes.
You'd be like, okay, I believe that. As long as that's what they're saying, I'm on that. I really believe God wants us to find truth, right? And not to the extent so we can start disagreeing with people. It's just that's the purpose of the gospel, right? Christ taught things. Like in the very beginning, you told me how the prodigal son, like it's something that we understand, right? It's like it's a relatable story that, people kind of
second nature.
Sure.
Did it switch to me on that?
Yeah,
second
nature. Yeah, air quotes for the listeners on. But
yes.
but also that I think that Jesus taught parables that way on purpose, right? Because he wanted to teach things in a way that people could understand, And so I guess my point of all this is that
truth is communicated much better through stories.
Yeah, it is.
Than through a word.
And I think Christ was just trying to stimulate people's investigation. It's like, okay, you're asking these questions. Let me teach you the gospel, right? But then from there, you have to start, read the scriptures. He told the Pharisees, study the scriptures, right? This is what the scriptures say. You have to actually start doing your own work. And that's what I think comes down to. If you want to know how to be a better Christian, I think, you need to, or I guess any religious
better
faith,
person
a better
in
person in general.
And atheists would even agree with that. Multiple atheists would agree. Agnostics would agree too. It's just like, well, why do you say that? Why do you it?
Right.
It's good for you. It would make you a better person. Then why don't you read it?
Right.
Why is it that?
Bottom line is, no matter who you are, atheist, agnostic, Christian, any faith, any belief.
I think that just reading any story that has good in it can be good.
It can. I agree.
Like if you watch any movie today, it's crazy. You watch any movie today, and I told you this at one point, is that you can see a story from the Bible in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the motifs that are strewed along in the Bible, and I'm sure also the Book of Mormon, are implanted in the stories that we hear today.
Yeah.
So can you extract truth from something that is fictionally written today that has the same motifs as yesterday?
Yeah, I think you absolutely can.
Yeah,
totally can. And you should need to use those things basically. My point of everything I was saying before, just to kind of top it off, is you need to take the time to really figure out what it is that you believe, politically, religiously, whatever. Take the time to investigate
your identity
and really find your identity, and don't just piggyback on an existing label, right? That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to find out what is you believe. Otherwise, when something comes that challenges your belief and your faith, that really makes you start to think, that's why it's frustrating. I think that's why people get mad. It's because they don't have answers. And so instead of trying to figure it out, they just like, oh, I can't be wrong. I'm going to get mad at you, right? And just show my faithfulness and my commitment to my idea by just freaking out, right?
Well, your commitment to your ideology, which is a group identity. Basically, when you say, I am this, it's also saying, like, we are this.
Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah, and I think it's good to have, like, if there's a group that you identify with, fine. But go the next step, right? Dig a little deeper.
Like ask why.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Ask questions, you know?
Like
be controversial.
I'll throw this out there. Is that I'm Irish. Okay? Okay, there's some Irish inside of me. Okay, what does that mean?
Right.
Like what does it mean that I'm an Irishman?
What does it mean that I'm Irish? I'm Irish too, by the way.
Oh, that's
Love
good.
As you can tell by our impeccable Irish accent.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Two Irishmen here just having ourselves
a Mountain Dew and a water.
A Mountain Dew and a water.
Hopefully this isn't offensive to Irish people who are listening.
No, if hopefully anything, it is.
They should feel they deserve it. No, they should. If anything, they should be good. We did spot on, so they should feel honored that we're.
You want to talk about slavery? The Irish were slaves.
Not going there.
7 years. 7 years.
Oh, I guess we are.
I do. Yeah, we are. I actually want to know more about it. Like I said, I would like to know more about my heritage, but I don't believe that my heritage is my identity.
Right. You can make it part if you want, but that's up to you.
And I say that, and it's probably that's probably a arrow in the side of some people saying that like you shouldn't make your heritage.
I think it's your choice.
Identity.
I think I think that if you want it to,
like I think that's true.
Yeah.
You can. I'm not saying that you can't. I did. You can't. What I'm saying is that it is not right to. Here's the way I described it at one point. Is that what's inside your core beliefs, you know, your hair color and your eye color and the shape of your nose and your lips, your look, your physical, your personality, your quips, that's not inside your core beliefs. Like that's going to go away.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
You're going to get droopy eye.
That's just how you look. Yeah.
Your nose is going to get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's just biologically true.
What happens? Yeah.
So, like, your core beliefs are what make up your identity. I don't think people really dig into, like, I think that what we have is, and I'm not saying we, I'm also saying I as well, is that we walk around with this idea of, did you ever see the picture of the cell? You know, you had the animal cell and the plant cell, and then you had like the nucleus and the little ribosomes.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, by the way. Just so everyone knows. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that we're just saying, when you say that I am Republican or I am Democrat or I am
Christian.
I am Christian. Is it you're saying I am a cell? You know,
like everything you need to know is based on that thing.
Like if you want to divide it up even more, like, you know, like if I'm religious versus I am secular. Like I'm a plant cell, and then the other person goes, I am an animal cell.
Right.
Wait a second. Why are you?
Yeah.
You cell walls.
I don't agree with your cell walls. That's offensive to me.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
It's like, but why? What makes up plant cell?
Yeah. Like, take the time to understand, and then for all you know, they might make you a more edified cell yourself.
Yeah, or they may be a complete idiot.
Yeah. And on that note, I think we're almost out of time here, but
what are we at?
We're at about an hour.
About an hour. Less or more than?
I'm not sure. Give or take a minute or two. I can't remember.
Is it almost 8?
It is 8:09.
It's 8.
No. Man, talking about
2
posture.
people are watching.
Is it us too?
Yeah, I think so.
Either way, this is the point where we'd have the fade out. But we're going to have some new beats for some new good vibe morning beats. But anyway, recap of everything. Prodigal son, no going, but like you're never too far gone to get God's love.
Don't use that to your advantage. Knowing that, don't take that truth.
Don't take advantage of it. Yeah, God does. Even though God forgives, it doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, because you're gonna get held accountable for that too. With leaders, it's good to support your leaders, but it's okay. Don't hate your leaders for the sake of hating them. support.
It says love thy brotherhood first.
Yes.
So start with loving thy brotherhood.
Right.
And if you can do that correctly, then start talking about how much you honor your king.
Yes, exactly. Support your leaders to the extent where once they start being truly violating like right and wrong, then it's okay to maybe push back. But beyond that, not so much. And to kind of prevent that, just elect good leaders. That's good. We can
And
move on to
start
this one.
locally.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
if you want to get into politics,
Yes.
like start locally.
Start local. Those are the things that affect your day to day, right? Anyway, and then identity. Don't just broad stroke yourself with your identity. Be willing to dig a little deeper. That kind of help you whenever you have these.
Find common ground with your blood.
That's right. And
or the blood that blood married into the family.
That's right. Find the common ground. Get better at having some civil discourse. Dig deeper to find your identity. Man, we're so deep.
I think that we should, next time that we do like the close on that, like that, is that we should like look at each other and we're going to be like, we will ... this. Wide angle? This, and this. Because I think that's a conversation, is that like, we
commit to change.
Because I want to do those things.
Yeah.
Do you want to do
Same.
those?
I do. We're going to do it. It's on the record. We're doing it.
But first, I'm going to play some World of Warcraft.
That's important. That first. Then we'll start making changes. I'm
Okay.
going to go take care of my sick son. Because I love my son, but he is snotty and sick. So I have to go do that. Kids.
It's so...
Am I right?
What? It's so sad without the... Can you do the...
That's my dry mouth morning beatboxing for everyone. Fade out. Tell me when we